Okay, you guys, a few mobility exercises that I like to do either first thing in the morning or first thing when you walk into the gym before you even start your dynamic warm-up. So I will not shut up about this exercise because I personally do this every single morning no matter what. I've done it for years. I don't think I've skipped a morning in years. Number one, cat-cows. So cat-cows, if you've never done them, you are rounding at your upper back, pushing your hands into the ground, driving your spine up towards the ceiling, and then from here, coming into some spinal extension, arching at your low back, looking up towards the ceiling, and then coming back into the rounding or the spinal flexion, and then moving back into extension just to get your whole entire spine to move from flexion to extension. I would say to do this for about 30 to 60 seconds, more if you want, or you could just move however feels good. So sometimes it feels good to move side to side, get some lateral flexion in. Sometimes you can just do cat-cows from your low back or lumbar cat-cows. I like those too. So cat-cows number one. From here, a hip flexor stretch. So coming on one knee, taking your pelvis, tucking it underneath you, so coming into a little bit of a posterior pelvic tilt. It's kind of a weird cue, but think about peeing in front of you, especially weird for us girls. But if you tuck your hips, posterior pelvic tilt, hands on the knee, then you shouldn't have to totally lunge into this stretch. If your hips are tucked, you're already kind of tightening your hip flexors, and then you're just leaning into it a little bit. You should feel a good stretch here. I like to oscillate this movement if we're doing it as more of a warm-up rather than a static stretch, so making it a little bit more dynamic. So oscillating in and out of the stretch. You can do this about 10 to 15 times, and then on the last one, just holding it here for another 10 to 15 seconds. And then you can either switch sides, or while you're here, coming into some spinal rotation. So hands are coming on the inside of your foot, taking your hand that's closest to your foot and rotating up towards the ceiling, and then bringing your hand back down, reach across your body to get a stretch in the opposite side of your low back, and then rotate up again. If we're going for reps here, I like to do about 10 on each side, and then you can switch sides. So when you switch sides, you can come hip flexor, tuck that hip, posterior tilt, lean into it, lean out of it. Remember, about 10 to 15-ish on each side. Once you do that, coming into half kneeling rotations, reaching up, reaching across your body. You can go about 10 of them there. But again, there's no magic number, so do what feels good. You can do 5, you can do 10, you can do 15, you can go for a time, you can do 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever you want to do. Just move your body. Let's see, from there, so we hit some flexion extension in the spine. We got some hip flexor stuff. We got some rotation at the spine. Now, a lot of the times people have tight hips. It's a common complaint I hear is that your hips just feel tight. So hip circles. A variation I like to do is quadruped. So hands and knees, hip circles. So you're going to bring your knee up towards your chest, out to the side, back on an angle, and then a tight circle around, keeping your knee bent the whole time. You don't want to unbend your knee. You're keeping it bent to keep that hip circle nice and tight. So we're moving your hip, which is a ball and socket joint, in its full range of motion here. Usually I do about 5 of them, and then you can switch it and go backwards. So now you're going to kick up and back towards the ceiling, out on an angle, out to the side, bring it back in, up and out, angle, out, in, and do another about 5 of them here, and then you can switch sides and do the other side. So up, out, angle, circle it around. 5 of them like that, and then backwards, up and back, out, angle, circle back in. So those are a couple mobility drills that I like to do. If you do all of those, you should already feel a lot more loose and less stiff. So if you're someone who wakes up in the morning and you're like, oh, my joints feel so achy, go through all of those, start doing them daily and see how you feel. Or add them in pre-workout.